on. Marine Corps, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Jeffrey Rosales here on TVC, giving you a voice. Now, in today's climate, we are facing unprecedented change from all over the country here. And it's up to leaders that we have on today who are dealing with that change. And what I love about our military veteran community is many veterans go into politics, and which is great. And we need more veterans going into politics. So today's guest is an amazing guest. Let me just tell you a little bit about him. He's a fellow Devil Dog. So he served in the Marine Corps. He was on the Marine Corps boxing team. So I'm looking forward to talking about that as well. And he also became the first black chief of police for his town of Jonesboro. And he is now currently the mayor of Jonesboro. So I want to welcome Dr. James Spike Harris to TVC. Welcome, sir.
All right, simplify.
How you doing today?
I am doing great. It's a little nippy down here for Louisiana, but we're making it through this here, and just enjoying life, man. Just living the dream.
I'm glad to hear that. And like I said earlier, we were chuckling because I thought you were getting ready to go on a hunt, and you said you're a Saints fan. And I hope we don't have any problems here because I'm a Chargers fan as well. So hopefully we don't get into it when it comes to that here. But
Not at
Mayor,
all.
thank you so much for joining us here today. And I'm so excited because we need leaders like yourself right now in these positions to be able to lead people. But I want to start first a little bit about your background. Tell us about your upbringing. What was that like?
Well, I was born out in Martinez, California, and we moved around between California, Chicago, and Louisiana. And Louisiana is definitely where my roots are from. So I definitely claim Louisiana all the way. I went from elementary school all the way up to graduating high school here in Louisiana. So definitely involved in athletics while growing up. Whatever season it was, that was the sport I played. So we're from a small town under 5,000, but we have a great, rich history here, especially in athletics. So we have a lot of top-notch athletes that came out of this town right here in Jonesboro, Louisiana. So I am definitely proud to call Jonesboro, Louisiana, my home.
So what sports did you play?
Oh wow, football. We played Ironman football down here. Went both ways. So I was a fullback and a linebacker at that
Okay.
time. I still think I hold the record as a DH in baseball. Now I couldn't catch a cold naked in Alaska, but look, I came off the bench and I could hit, man. So I had like a 700 batting average in the playoffs down here that year,
Oh
and
man.
yeah, we made it to the semifinals. And wasn't a good basketball player, but we did it just to keep in shape. I didn't run track side to side. Oh, I was fast, but north and south wasn't that fast. I was strong, so I threw the discus and the javelin, and I actually went to state in throwing the javelin here. Didn't place, but hey, I went. So that's my claim to fame.
Similar to you, I also played every single
Yeah.
sport that I can get my hands on, and mainly it was to be growing up in Fresno, California. It was a very rough neighborhood, so I'm grateful for sports. I think all children should be involved in sports, and I'm sure sports played a big role. Teaching you leadership, teaching you how to work well with
Yep.
others. Any other memorable moments from your childhood there?
Man, just growing up, man, everything went so fast. You don't believe how fast it goes. All my family's here, and just a lot of loving an environment. And technically, I'm my only child, but my mother raised my first cousin, so we call each other brothers. But look, I graduated high school May 22nd of 1987. I was in boot camp May 27, 1987. So I didn't spend any time home. I went straight to Marine Corps boot camp, San Diego, and it's been a whirlwind since then.
So let's talk about that. Why
Mhm.
did you join the Corps? Did anybody in your family serve?
Two of my best friends, they actually went first, and they were 2 years older than me, and I used to hear stories, and they actually went reserve, So my thing was, I knew I wasn't ready for college. I just wasn't going to do it. I needed the discipline to be there. I had the ASVAB scores to basically go in any branch that I wanted. But to be honest with you, I shunned all of them and said no. The Marine Corps recruiter didn't even have to recruit me. I said, this is where I'm going. So let's take the ASVAB. Let's look at it. Give me a job and let's go from there. So I signed up in the delayed entry program. And back then, they had things called a contract corporal, you know. And so I was one of those. I was a contract corporal. I got a $3,500 bonus, coming in the door, and you couldn't tell me anything. So some people did like that, some people didn't like it. I was like, hey, don't hate me because I'm smart. I had that kind of cocky attitude. So
Don't hate the player, hate the game,
hate the
man.
game. There you
I don't
go.
even think I got a bonus, man. Now I'm a little jealous of you, man, because my story's a little different here. Because I did,
Yeah.
I dated. I went to the other branches first, checked them out, and it wasn't. I went to until the Marine recruiter, and I saw the dress blues, and then I saw the whole Dragon Slayer commercial that came on. I was like, oh man, I'm gonna fight dragons. I'm gonna have a sword. That's what I'm talking about. So then, I was sold on the Marine Corps because originally I was talking to the Army about going MP, but it's just the core. There's something about it that attracts us to it, right? The leadership here, and then of course, so you went to MCRD as well. So you stepped on
Yeah.
those yellow footprints there. I'm also a
Yep.
Hollywood Marine. For those Hollywood Marines out there, shout out to the
There you
Hollywood
go.
Marines. All right, just for my East Coast Marines, just saying, we got love for you guys still, but you're not humping like we are here in SoCal as well.
Hey,
So
there
just
you go, man. Yeah. Hey, we had Mount MF and B Ridge, and hey, it is what it is. They had sand fleas, so we all have our stories. We got a story to tell.
That's right. You got to pick your poison, man. I love the Reaper. Some people like the swamp. I like the mountains, and then I like the beaches as well, man. That is why I like being a Hollywood Marine. So you went to contract Marine, and then where did you end up stationed at?
Man, and to tell you how green I was, well, let's back up a little bit. So the only reason I got the bonus and everything, choice of duty stations, contract, I had the whole package. But I didn't understand one what a contract corporal meant. $3,500 wasn't any money. Even back in '87. But to me, as an 18-year-old kid, it was. And then, choice of duty station and choice of MOS. I chose 29 Palms. That was my only choice in California. I didn't know any better, man. And that's not the end of the story. So um, hindsight is always 2020. Hindsight is always 2020. So we say this MOS, you get this. If I'd have known then, I'd have gave up everything and went into Intel because I had that MOS, and that's where I would have went. But he said, well, we got 0151 at the time, that admin, So I said, well, let's do it because that $3,500 was ringing in my head. Didn't know the NCO creed or anything. I just knew it was a corporal and you make more money. Okay. And I was going to be a Marine. That's all that it accounted for. So that's how I ended up at 29 stumps. I said, oh, it got to be nice. You got to have palm trees. It's California. I've been to California plenty of times.
Yeah,
I've been to the
5-star
beach.
resort. Yeah, 5-star
Yeah.
resorts there, man. That's why I was telling
I,
her. That's why I tell her. But you guys must like 5-star resorts there because it is
man,
it is an
I had
interesting
no clue.
place.
I had no clue. But
But
hey, the
here's the
good
thing
thing,
though. Here's the thing though,
yeah,
Mayor, because you already started negotiating at an early age, right? Because we obviously we
uh,
come from blue collar neighborhoods. So me being the youngest of 12, I had to negotiate at the dining table when I was gonna eat because I wasn't the first child, only child like you. I had to negotiate. I had to make sure
uh,
my food was coming on time. So you already started negotiating at an early age, and prepping you for this world of politics. I just want to share that
Hey
with you
man,
there.
hey, well I lost that negotiation, man. I'm not gonna lie to you. My recruiter should have warned me. But
Fool me
look,
once.
I had a wonderful. You know what? I've never had a bad duty station. Never. We had our ups and downs and roller coaster rides just like anybody else. But I made the best out of any situation that we ever had. And I started out at Third Tank Battalion out there in 29 Palms. Well, guess what? They had 8-man football going on, and that's all I needed to hear. So guess what I did the majority of the
Now, hold on.
time?
Did you guys do it in full boots and utes? And you guys had the gas masks
Oh
on?
no, we had helmets and shoulder pads, and we had
Oh,
everything that we had. And so hey, it was full all out tackle football.
okay.
And the AT Tow Company major, I think his name was Major Bill, real hard ass. I mean, top of the line guy. And so he was the coach. And being in the admin office, with Third Tank Battalion, you still had to go to the field. And so what they said, well, we're going to put you on the React platoon, and that was basically for us admin folks, to go out. So the next thing I know, we're out in the middle of the desert, and we're low crawling with what's those things they stick on your tonsils to look at looking for mines. So we we had to clear the minefield, and we marched in front of the tanks and with tow company. So we belonged to tow company at the time. So I said, man, recruiter lied to me again. I didn't sign up for this. I was supposed to be in the office. So that wasn't the case. So
Oh man, so
man,
29 palms. Okay,
29 stumps,
man.
man. I'm telling you. So I had a wonderful career, man. And I love reminiscing about it. So I left 29 Palms and got stationed at headquarters Marine Corps. At the time, it was at the Navy Annex, so right up the street from Henderson Hall. And the doggone Marine Corps commandant at the time was General Al Gray. So I'm in the same building with this guy. So I'm going around meeting all these people, and I met my commanding officer at the time, Full Bird Colonel. You might know this name, James Mad Dog Mattis. So that was my boss at headquarters Marine Corps. That was my commanding officer over MMEA 5 at the time. So, and this is where I started boxing during that time frame. So,
Wow. So hold up before we get into the boxing, because I got one of my best friends that I served with in the Marine Corps. He was on the Marine Corps boxing team.
mm,
What was their leadership style like? Because we're talking Desert Storm era. So what were some of the
mm.
things that you were learning from leaders like General Al Gray or Mad Dog Mattis?
Well, we got to back up before I PCSed out of 29 Palms. Colonel Diggs, African American colonel over the tank battalion during that time frame. And if you do your research, you go back, you'll find out that he took those old M60 tanks over there that we had and went over there and wiped the floor over there in Iraq during that time frame. Now, I didn't get a chance to deploy with him because I was in the process of PCS, and so which actually was kind of disheartening for me because he was a great commander over there, Colonel Diggs, who was a former boxer, Marine Corps boxer himself. So when I got to headquarters Marine Corps, I knew nothing of James Mattis, Colonel Mattis at the time. I knew nothing about him, but I knew who Al Gray was, and I had very little interaction with the commandant. I think one time I got put on some extra duty, as a server in there for the general's mess, and got to spend a little time around him. But I know that running from Henderson Hall to the Navy Annex, he put a 6-pack under his arm, running, put his head down. He wasn't saluting all those people, and he was always in his camouflage uniform. Always. Every time that I saw him, he wasn't that type of guy. He's gonna be, beating you down. He was a warrior, and that's just the way that he was. When I had my first boxing match, And I think I briefly discussed that with you. I got my butt kicked by this Army guy for 3 rounds. But the last round, I said, look, I'm going to go in there. I'm going to give it all I got. And I ended up knocking this guy down. And I was so tired. It took him 12 seconds to get me in the corner. And so naturally, right before the bell rung at the end of the third round, he gets up and he's staggering. The referee's holding him up, but he was able to get up. The judges ruled in his favor because he outpointed me the whole so he had a few extra fights, more than I did at the time. And he was a really tall guy. I'm only 5'10". He was like 6'3", 6'4". But man, when they said that I lost, Colonel Mattis at the time ran around that ring, cursed the judges out, said my Marine overcame. He did what he had to do. And man, I'm over there in tears, and this dude running around. I mean, he cussed everybody. He's hugging me and kissing me and punching me in the chest. And I'm like, dude, I just took a whole bunch of fight. But that's the kind of guy that he was. He was going to have your back. And as long as you did not quit, he wasn't going to quit on you. So that's what I remember about Colonel James Mattis at that time.
And that says a lot about leaders, right? You are there. We always say lead from the front. Like that is one of the leadership principles that the Marine Corps teaches us. Lead from the front, lead by example. And I always tell people, like, you can apply this to business, or if you're looking for your next wife, because I'm a single guy right now, bachelor. Mm-hmm. But I always say is like, do I want to be in a foxhole with that person? That person's going to be my business partner. Will that person have my six? Right. And I think this is a good lesson learned also on the politics side as well, because, you want someone that's going to be there with you in a foxhole in the trenches. And that's a great story about General Mad Dog Mattis here, that he was there for his Marines and he fought with his Marines. So let's back up a little bit. How did you end up getting into the Marine Corps boxing team? Because let me tell you, when my buddy got in, he had to go through some trials. He had to apply for that, because that is an assignment where you are taken out of your primary MOS or job, and you are just now your whole focus is just on boxing for your service. So let's talk about that.
Oh man, it's easy. Got in trouble. I got in trouble. I was at Henderson Hall. And back then, this is before, 9/11. So the Army base had an open post. So you could go through there and not have to stop at a guard gate or anything. The headquarters Marine Corps or Henderson Hall, we had guards on the gate. But you can come through the back gate, which was from Fort Myer, and come through a little opening in the fence and get on Henderson Hall. So her and her brother, she got mad at me. Her and her brother was, they got on base, and something told me to go downstairs and check on my car, and they were demolishing my car with just breaking the windows, putting the tires on flat. And man, I lost it. I got a pipe and I went to work on both of them. I just said, and I was just that type of guy, man. And so of course, the staff duty NCO came down, and they were not military. And I'm like, they need to be arrested. And they were like, yeah, but we're gonna, yeah, you're apprehended as well. And I'm like, what? So I'm sitting in the MP's hut, and thank God that I was one of those guys that my superiors wanted to say, hey, no, Harris is not a bad guy. We don't want him to get office hours or anything like that. Mind you, at the same time, I'm up for sergeant. So I got passed over for sergeant during this time frame. It got delayed about 3 months. I say 3 months. And they sent me to anger management. So I had to go to another Army base and go to anger management class. And we're all sitting around telling our stories. So I got these guys back from Desert Storm. They're telling some real hardcore PTSD stories. So when I told my story, it's like an admin talking to infantry. Like, dude, what the hell are you doing in here? Even the instructor was like, you protected your property, and the Marine Corps got mad at you and sent you over here. I said, well, I'd rather have this than my rank took, my money took, getting kicked out of the Marine Corps. And she said, look, come sign in and just go to the gym. And then as long as you sign in, I got your back. I said, okay. So I would sign in and go to the gym just as directed. Well, I'm in the gym one day, and this old master gunnery sergeant, Vietnam era, and I was just in there hitting the bag, with no gloves on or anything. And he walked up to me. His name Master Sergeant Honey at the time, Ted Honey, big guy. I'm talking. He's probably 6'1", bald, and you can look in his eyes and say, yeah, I'm not finna mess with this guy. Now I thought I was a badass already, but I knew I wasn't gonna mess with Master Sergeant Honey. And he's like, boy, you're doing that wrong. And I just looked at him, and he said, you mind if I show you what to do? I said, do I have a choice top? He said, nope. He started training me. And he said, you ready to get in the ring? I said, man, I'm ready for anybody. I'm ready for anybody. And he said, well, I got you all a fight set up. He started training like 5 of us. And we had a fight set up against the Army base, Fort Myer right there. And man, it was just phenomenal. So after that fight, after I got all my faculties together, I called the famous coach at Camp Lejeune, Roosevelt Sanders. Now, mind you, Roosevelt Sanders has trained Spinks and some other great heavyweight fighters. So he was the premier boxing coach for the Marine Corps, former master sergeant in the Marine Corps as well. I called him and lied and said, look, I got 10 fights. I want to come down and try out. So he said, well, go to your office over there. And he said, I'll send you some orders or whatever, and just go and just tell them that's what you want to do. You got to get approval. So my folks let me go. And they was like, well, Spike didn't quit in his fight, so we're gonna let him go and see what happens. Man, I get down there, and I fought against this Hispanic kid. I think he was stationed at Camp Pendleton. He beat the brakes off me for 3 rounds again. And I'm talking about till this day, I can still feel my ribs. They still hurt. Well, once again, the last round, the 3rd round, I just got tired. I said, I'm tired of him beating on me. So I managed to, I was a weightlifter, power lifter. So I managed to push him into the corner, and I got really aggressive with him. And man, I just started clubbing this dude. And his eyes start rolling up in his head, and I had him over the top of the ropes, and I'm just beating him, no boxing, nobody. I'm just beating him in the head. And the referee pulled me back. Once again, the bell rings. He's still on the rope. He's woozy. I didn't knock him out or knock him down. And I lost. So the coach came up to me after the fight, and he said, I like your heart. You didn't quit. Once again, this is the 2nd time somebody told me. He said, even though you lost, I'm going to keep you. I'm going to keep you, and I'm going to teach you how to box. He said, if you listen to me, you'll be the next champion, not just in the Marine Corps, but you can take this as far as you want to go. And I was like, wow, hey, yeah, I want to stay. And man, the rest is history. The thing is, when I got ready to turn pro.
Wow, real quick.
Yeah.
I mean, just there's a lot you said right there, but I think for the audience that's going to listen to this, there's a couple things. First of all, this is what I love about the Marine Corps, and I think if you're an organization or business, take note of this. Is if you are so focused on paperwork for your employees, and you think that's a form of punishment to get them to change the behavior, you're not going to get the best out of him. And what I love about the Marine Corps, because I do have a similar story where, we got into some stuff in the Corps, but I love about our leaders from the NCO level or the CO level is we believe in discipline, meaning through physical discipline, right? So I remember a couple of times with buddies of mine who had got into stuff, and instead of the paperwork issue, we found a way to take care of it in house. We just ran those Marines about just a couple of PTs times 10, right, to the point where they're like, okay, I got it now, Sergeant. I got it, Captain. I'm not going to do that again, right? So there was no paperwork that would follow that person through their career. And this is what I like, is that somebody believed in you and took you into sports where you had 2 mentors who believed in you, Mayor. I think that says a lot about those mentors, because that they saw something in you that you probably didn't even see yourself at the time, but they said, there's a way that I can help grow this person from a personal development perspective, from a leadership development perspective, and that has led you to become the person who you are today. So I think that's a great lesson learned. I want everybody to take that away. Is don't worry about this. If you want to retain and grow leaders and grow talent, take away the paper and find a way to discipline them in a different way. Maybe they need some coaching. Maybe they need some advice. Maybe they need another mentor here, right? Or if you're like
Mm-hmm.
hardcore Marines like us, I'll happily take them on a 5-10 mile run today. And if they want to learn that way, right? And then, so we can get it out of them. So I
That
love
is
that.
correct.
So you were part of the Marine Corps boxing team. Um, you went to some great experiences there. Who were some of your other mentors in the Corps besides those coaches? Anyone else that
Oh
stands
wow.
out to you?
But man, I'm telling you, man, I can go back to Daryl Toomer, former command sergeant major. Um, Colonel Katzberg, man, Colonel Diggs, Colonel Mathis at the time. Um, man, just about everybody I've had, man. I mean, these guys were top notch. Some of them were what you call Marines. I mean, they were top notch, and they took care of their people. As long as you did your job, as long as you had motivation to keep coming, and never stop. These guys took care of you, and I figured that out. Especially after those two incidents, just coming in my ear, and they just want to see you put forth some effort, to do what you needed to do. Um, I still don't think I used my full potential at the time, and I can attribute that to age at the time, because if I'd have put forth my full potential, I would have stayed in school while I was in the Marine Corps, went OCS, and took a whole different route. But that's not what I did. My mindset got set on something else. But like I say, hindsight is always 2020.
Well, that's fantastic. And you ended up getting out the Marine Corps after you did your Marine Corps boxing
I did.
assignment.
Yeah, I did 12 years in the Marine Corps. So I went in from 87 to 99. And what happened, and I was told by, some of my superiors, that the boxing team is going to hurt you when it comes time to reach your staff NCO level. Didn't listen. I love the boxing team. I go to my duty station, I go to the boxing team. I loved it. And I went to Iwakuni, Japan, and I'll never forget this. Um, Crazy story. I tore my right bicep working out training. This was in the year before the Olympics, and I just had in my mind I wanted to go to the Olympics, but I had to, PCS to Iwakuni. I got over there. I received my orders to go back to the boxing team, and my unit kept calling me back. Of course, everybody's always short of people. And Gunnery Sergeant Villarreal and Major Anthony Cardoza, they say, Spike, man, we need you here. And when it comes to this, is before they went to the new fit rep system, the fitness report, and said that we have no experience with you. And I received two above averages on my my fitness report as a sergeant. And so when it came time to get out or to get promoted for staff sergeant, those above averages killed me. And these were the Clinton years. And so around 99, they started cutting back on the 0151 MOS. And they were like, "No, you can't re-enlist. You can go. I think they would call it the AR program, active reserve, and kind of come in that way." And man, it hurt me to my soul, you know. And I was just like, "Wow." So they said, "Look, well, we got to pay you." Once again, that money thing is. I think they had to pay me like $68,000 or something like that, and basically you're out the door. Well, at this time, I was stationed at NAS JRB Fort Worth. I was with MAG 41. I walked around the corner and got in the Air Force, literally as a cop, which is what I wanted to be. You can go back to my high school transcripts. I wanted to be a cop anyway. So
Wow.
I've
So
always
you got
been.
a severance from the Marine Corps, and this is
Uh-huh.
detrimental because the thing is about when I want people to listen is Marine Corps culture. It's different. The reason why we set ourselves apart is because there's honor in being a Marine. It's like it's one of the most proudest things ever. And so, of course, that must have been something mentally that had affected you. But again,
Oh yeah.
you got a severance, you negotiated, and then you found a way to go into the Air Force, which is interesting, right? Because that's a different culture from
Yeah.
Marine Corps. I've always heard that the
Oh
Air Force don't like Marines or don't like the
well.
fact that people were in the Marine Corps.
Well, I'm gonna tell you a funny story, but then I'm gonna have to back up. So you remember when you reported to a new duty station, what did you have to do? You go to the CO's door, you knock 3 times, you go in, stand at attention, was it 3 feet away from his desk, and you report. You know, Sergeant Harris reporting his orders, sir. Well, I did this at the Air Force, and the major, I forget his name, he had his back turned to me. He was on a computer, and this is at a security forces, a MP unit. And when I knocked, he jumped. It startled him, and I went in and I was just like, Sergeant Harris reporting his audit, sir. And he was like, "Oh my God, what is wrong with you?" And he said, "Look, I'm not going to sign your paperwork right now. Go home, grow a beard, drink, get fat, and then come back. Calm down." So it took me 3 months to get in there. And so, and that actually happened. So I have to back up. Now remember, one of my duty stations in the Marine Corps, I got transferred to the MEPS in Montgomery, Alabama, and I was attached to the I&I unit there, but they sent me to the MEPS. And so as I'm in processing, I go to MWR, and the guy was like, James Harris, I know you. And I was like, when the people say James Harris to me, especially here in Louisiana, they're talking about the black quarterback from Grambling, the first black quarterback in the NFL named James Harris. So with that being said, I was like, "No, you talking about him? He's taller, got more money." I said, "But I look better." We started laughing. He said, "No, but I know you." And then it hit him. He said, "You're on the All Marine boxing team," and I said, "Yeah." And I said, "Man, my chest sticking out now. I'm like, oh yeah, somebody knows me." And he said, "You missed the All Marine trials." And I'm like, "Well, you got a lot of information there, partner." My OPSEC kicked in, and he's like, "No, no, no. This is what I do." He said, "Since you missed the Marine trials, the Air Force trials haven't started yet." He said, "So you want to go fight on the Air Force team?" I was like, "Hey, I'm in my dress uniform. I'm in my alphas." I was like, "Dude, I'm a Marine." He's like, "No, but you can fight for the Air Force as a Marine." I said, "No way that's going to happen. I am a Marine." You know, I said, he kept going on and on. I said, "Well, finally, I said, look, if you can make it happen, make it happen." I barely in process it at the MEPS, and I had orders to go down to Lacken Air Force Base, Kelly Air Force Base, down there. And when I got down there, man, and I think this might be what spearheaded me getting in the Air Force. The living conditions were all so different. You know, we living in lodging. I got my own room. Um, I got they're picking up your trays in the chow hall. You can leave it there. It was just the little stuff. And we were getting paid, TAD money. However, I was still getting paid by the Air Force because they were saying that Marine Corps living standards aren't up to theirs. I just thought it was just the most wonderful thing in the world. So I fought for the Air Force that year, but the Coach Roosevelt Sanders banned me from fighting in the armed forces. So I had to take the Golden Gloves route. So I couldn't do that. So and I said, "Oh, one day I'm going to get in the Air Force." Well, I guess I spoke it into existence because then you fast forward to 1999. That's what happened.
So you
So,
got into the Air
you know, I,
Force and you became a cop in the Air Force, right?
yeah, yeah. You go back and look at my high school transcripts. That's all I wanted to be. So I was attached to the 610 security forces. We weren't the cops at the gates. That wasn't us. Um, Most of the majority of my deployments came through the Air Force. literally came through the Air Force. So we were ATFP, anti-terrorism, force protection, and counter narcotics unit. So we were attached to the 820th out of Valdosta, Georgia, which was ran by Colonel Derry. And man, if you didn't know it, you swear this guy was a Marine, Major at the time, Major Derry, and you swear he was a Marine. So I had, and so I taught rifle fighting when we were in the States, and I taught counter narcotics tactics in the States as well to local sheriff and police departments. So this was my dream anyway. Um, like I said, it would have been in the Marine Corps, but I would have got that bonus. I would have got all the perks if I'd went MP, which I had the qualifications for. I always wanted to be a cop, you know. So this was my dream. It got called into existence. And to back up to a story you said a few minutes ago, a statement you said a few minutes ago, you were talking about how we discipline people. So let me tell you the difference between the Marine Corps and the Air Force. We're deployed in Kuwait, and we had just put up this base over there with Ali Salam. So we were some of the first ones on the ground, and we got the base up, and we got all our towers and everything up. So I had an airman that I was in charge of in a tower, and I went out, and he was asleep on duty in the middle of the night. So you had to climb a number of steps to get up there. I forgot how many steps it was. So I catch him. I mean, he was asleep. I go up the steps. I wake him up. I said, come down to the bottom. So we went down to the bottom, and I said, you know that this is a grave incident. And I told him, I said, if you was the Marine Corps and we were actually in combat, we'd probably shoot you. You know, I was just messing around with him, trying to scare him up a little bit. I said, run up and down these steps until you wake yourself up and get your blood to rolling. I was going to sit there and watch him. He looked at me and told me, no, give me some paperwork. I'm not doing that. Yes. So it's a mindset difference. I had another incident. The Army Patriot missile guys. We were in Delta, and I was in charge of the American Security Office, and you know, nobody was allowed off base. So for some reason, I think they were coming from Camp Doha over there, and I was coming back on base. They passed by me doing well over 100 miles per hour, and so they went through the Kuwaiti gate, and then I seen them, and I'm behind them. I didn't say anything, and then I seen them go through the American gate without getting searched. So I stopped my airman. I said, look, why didn't you search that vehicle? Oh, they said they were coming off of the flight line. I said, no, they're lying. Stop that vehicle, search them, make sure that there's no explosives under there, and it's come back. So he came back to my vehicle and said, Staff Sergeant Harris, they said you're lying. And I said, get them all out of the vehicle right now. Right now. And I lined them up. It was E6 all the way down to a E3 in the Army. It was like 6 of them in a Suburban. And I was like, look, you passed by me out there. I said, so for you all to say that I'm lying, now I'm taking offense to that. And they were like, oh, Staff Sergeant, you know, we didn't mean anything. I said, no, you get that vehicle searched. I look over to the right. My airman is on the phone contacting OSI. And I said, what the hell are you doing? Well, you know, we're supposed to contact the commanding officer and OSI if an incident like this goes down in Delta. Put the phone down. I had their first sergeant number in my cell phone. I called the first sergeant. He was out at the pool. And he said, I'll be right there. And he came over there, and man, he chewed him upside down one side. And he hugged me. The first sergeant hugged me and said, thank you, Staff Sergeant. And the next night, we were at Mid's Chow. And all 6 of those guys, I'm by myself. My weapon is on the other side of the chow hall. All 6 of those guys came and surrounded me. Now, by this time, I'm benching 400. So I'm like, it's about to go down. It's about to get nasty in here. And I'm literally by myself. And they walked up to me and they said, Staff Sergeant, you mind if we sit down and eat with you? And man, I'm in fight mode. And I said, what? And they was like, yeah, you mind? And they said, man, thank you. We could have got kicked out, sent home. He said, they put us on punishment. We can't go anywhere else while we're here. He said, but they didn't take any money from us. They didn't do anything. He said, man, thank you. Thank you. And that's what it's all about, because people took care of me, and I don't even have to know you. But if your first sergeant felt this way about you, I got respect for you at this point in time too. So I said all that to say I believe this is the difference between the Marine Corps and the Air Force. There's a lot more camaraderie in the Marine Corps. Now the Air Force has its positives too. Now I loved it, loved every minute of it. I was in there, but when it comes to camaraderie and taking care of your people, just watching over your people, Marine Corps far outweighs the Air Force on that.
And that's a very important point for leaders in community, business, government, academia, you name it. You take care of your people, they will run through a wall for you. And so I think that's
Yes.
important for you guys to consider that. And so thank you for sharing that, Mayor. So you had this amazing military experience, and then you transitioned out. Did you go straight into law enforcement, or was there a period where you just needed to kind of decompress?
Man, let me tell you, I was in school, um, and I had various jobs. Oh my God. I mean, it was horrible. It was horrible when I decided to get out. I got out because at the time I got married, and I had pushed her through Air Force OCS, and we got stationed in Dayton, Ohio. There were no jobs. I worked for the post office, and I didn't think any place could be more crazier than the military. And the post office, yeah, it's more crazy than the military. So I was working there part time, and I was like, wow. So I started recruiting. The Army at the time was using civilian recruiters. So I went to Army recruiting school at Fort Knox, and I came back to Dayton, Ohio, and I didn't like it. I didn't like it. So it was just bouncing back and forth, man. It began to weigh hard on my marriage. And so I got an opportunity to work as a government contractor in Washington, D.C., deploying overseas with a team of linguists. So my clearance was still active. I still had everything good. And I went there, and, things were kind of in disarray. And so as I got there, they were like, well, hey, Mike, look, man, we know you want to deploy. Yeah, that's six figures, but we can show you how to make more money here, just recruiting for us. We heard you got a background in recruiting. I said, yeah. And they said, well, can you assess this situation for us? We had Afghan linguists, we had Iraqi, Sunni, Shiite Muslim, all in one room, just waiting to deploy with these agencies we had contracts with. Most of them are three-letter agencies. That was a wrong place to put them. So the sergeant major, the command sergeant major I told you about a few minutes ago, Daryl Toomer, I called him on his sat phone. I knew he was getting ready to retire. And he was literally still in Iraq, in Fallujah. And he's like, do you realize you calling me and we over here getting shot at? I say, look, you out in a couple of days. I don't care. I got something for you. And so, man, when he got there and they hired him, and man, he revamped that whole system, kind of like our Marine Corps Institute, MCI, for the linguists, put together different programs and everything. And I'm hiring them. And I can give you an example. The base salary for me at the time was $60,000. Every linguist I hired, every month they worked overseas, I got $1,000 bonus. So at one time, I had over 32 people working at one time. So that's how the funds was coming in. I had an Army recruiter, had like 160 something people over there at one time. So I was still the low man on the totem pole. But man, I got into government contracting, and I stayed there to probably '07 to '09. No, to '05, '06. And then my mother and my stepfather started kind of, his health starts dwindling. And I wanted to get back to Jonesboro and kind of Louisiana and help my mother out. So I took another contract job in down south Louisiana, right outside of New Orleans, and for gas and oil industry. And I ran the entire Gulf Coast, all the way from Florida to Texas, Mexico, and Puerto Rico. And we did the hiring for people coming in to work with the gas and oil industry. So dream job, loved it. 85% travel, got to go and train people on how to recruit, things like that, and just leadership type skills. and the bottom fell out. I remember in 2009. So I lost that job. I moved home, and the mayor at the time, I didn't know he was a crook, but he, I started working as a compliance officer for him, and he was in court. They eventually put him in prison. And so as I started going through the paperwork, I saw a lot of, disparities, things that he was doing. And I'm like, man, this is just not right. So the town was taken over by a fiscal administrator. And while he was in prison, so I ended up on the Jonesboro Police Department, which that mayor had shut down. There was nobody there but an elected chief of police. And so he and I got together, we put our heads together, and we got the fiscal administrator to open up the police department, very small. It was three of us, the chief, the assistant chief, and me. So I said, well, man, I'm already an Air Force cop. He said, no, you need to go to civilian law enforcement. And thank God, I had to, because civilian laws and military laws are a lot different. And so I went to the academy, and and I'm in my 40s at this time. It amazed him that I came back with shooting awards, leadership awards, fighting awards. So I had all of this in my background, and he was just blown away. And he said, I'm going to retire, and I want you to be the chief of police. It's going to be your job to build this police department back up. And that's what I did.
Wow.
So I got elected.
So
Yes.
how big is Jonesboro as a town? It's not that big, right?
No, it's not that big. We're a town, and we're still considered a town because we're under 5,000 population. Okay. So we got about 4,500 people here in the city limits of Jonesboro, and it's a mixture, and but it's a very diverse town. So without really being known, nobody they knew Spike, but they didn't know the grown up James Harris. And mind you, I'm still in school at the time, getting my master's degree now. And as I'm going through this, I'm campaigning. So I'm learning how to campaign. I'm taking advice of others. And it was pretty tough, to get in this race. But when I got elected, I only won by 40 votes. And in that election, I only won by 40 votes. And I just thought that was a slap in the face. And they was like, I don't care if you won by one, you won. Take it as a blessing and move on. Nothing good comes easy. So I started rebuilding this police department, and I could only do so much because at the end of the day, I'm the elected chief of police, but the mayor still holds the purse. So if I wanted to buy something like a vehicle or get remodeling done in my building, that had a great cost to it, even though it was in my budget, doesn't mean the money would have been in the bank. So the mayor could say not right now or no or this and that. And I never agreed with that. So that's why in Louisiana, the police chiefs that are elected and the mayors butt heads. Okay. So, and then remember that because I'm going to come back to it. So I'm getting my master's degree. Doctorate. Okay. So as my first term with chief of police, my job, like I say, to rebuild it. So I got a lot of people hired. I got my staff back. We're still growing. So then going into my second term, the mayor that went to prison ends up running again and won. And won. He did everything in his power to shut the Jonesboro Police Department down again, but he didn't have the council votes. 5 on the council. Out of that 5, I had 4 on my team. He couldn't do it without the council vote. So now I'm learning politics. And so he did his best. And so I was at a stalemate pretty much those years. So I said, well, you know what? The only way I can really help this police department is to become mayor. And I can help not only the police department, our town was in disarray. The financials and everything were horrible. There was a lot of theft, and I mean, the employees were just horrible. And as a police chief, I only had enough power to do certain things. So, of course, the mayor and I didn't get along at this time, and I beat the mayor, the former mayor, by 20 votes. 20 votes, and now the police department is fully functional. They have all new vehicles. The whole town has all new vehicles. Our finances are straight. We have grants coming in. We have millions and millions of dollars. Right now, we're at like $8.9 million worth of grants coming in just because we got the financials straight. Um, we paid one contractor anywhere between 500,000 and 800,000 just to fix a minor water leak. When we have a water department to do it, well, now our guys are fixing it. I'm sending them to classes. I'm talking to the management, the supervisors, the leadership. I'm teaching them myself personally. But all this stems from the Marine Corps and throughout my tenure in the military. So I'm getting them trained. They're fixing all the leaks now, and we've bounced back so good that this town is in an upper direction. We still have a few little weak areas here and there, but we're fixing them. We're putting the right people in the right place, getting that right team together, and we're actually doing it together. The guys all have raises. They have benefits. They have retirement plans now. I mean, it's such at a higher level, and I have a great team surrounding me. So it took me probably a year and a half to get this team that I do now, with the know-how, and they bought into my vision. And man, I'm telling you, it couldn't be more wonderful now at this point in time.
And when did you become mayor for the town of Jonesboro?
January the 1st, 2023. And
Wow.
yeah,
So this
they
was in the
didn't let
middle
me know.
of the pandemic, right? This was sort of in the middle of the pandemic. You guys were
Uh,
you were tour.
yeah, we were on the back end of the pandemic. I was a chief of police during the pandemic, which I caught COVID 3 times. You still there, Jeffrey? Okay, I got you back
Yep.
now. I caught Yeah, I caught COVID 3 times as a chief of police, but we were on the back end of the pandemic. But the former mayor, to this day, he's tried to recall me twice. He's tried to undermine everything that we've done here. We did not have a transition period. I got in the office, and this is no joke. It is not an exaggeration. We didn't have a piece of paper in any of the printers. He didn't let me in there until the after midnight, December the 31st. We didn't have a pen, or I had to come out of pocket and go to Walmart here and buy pen and paper. Our first checks were handwritten for our employees, which we were due. It was a payday there. They did everything in the world to try to stop us, but once again, they didn't know who they were messing with at all. And I attribute that to the Marine Corps wholeheartedly. I will never quit. I will die trying or die fighting. Um, and now it's better than it's ever been after 2 years.
That's powerful right there. And for those of you that are going to be listening to this, if you served or you didn't serve, discipline equals a lot of freedom and opportunity. And we have somebody here who not only served his country, but is very well credentialed, qualified, ends up becoming the chief of police. So he has this extensive experience and career and background. And it sounds like you were just the person to meet that moment. Because if you think about it, if you're a mayor of a town or you're a president of a country, the livelihoods of people's responsibilities is on you for workforce development,
Yeah,
economic development, community development. It's like taking care of a family. Like you have to go
yeah.
and be conscientious of that. So what was going through your mind during that time on, because what you just mentioned as far as you guys getting funding, right, especially at the federal level,
Mm-hmm.
transforming some of your processes, getting more organized, building up your team and your staff to handle a population of 5,000, which, who knows, they could probably double in a couple of years. And so what was going through your mindset when now you are the mayor and you are now responsible for the livelihoods of people within your town?
Great question. As I said, I spent 8 years as the chief of police, and unbeknownst to me, I was already in the people's eyes acting as mayor. And to give you an example, we had a snowstorm here in Louisiana, ice and snow on the ground, everything shuts down. Well, we lost water, we lost power, um, and our mayor stayed at home. Our public works director, stayed at home. I have pictures of his car with snow still on the windshield. But I had an assistant chief of police who drove 20 miles, slipping and sliding in the snow and the ice, just to get to work to make sure her employees were taken care of. So there's no way that I was going to sit back and not do my job. So I called in the National Guard to bring us water. I called in the energy, who we get our power from, and they put a rush on what we had going here to get our power back on. And we're working on 4 and 5 days now. You have elderly people who had oxygen machines; they couldn't get their oxygen or anything like that. Man, it was horrible. And I tell you 100%, it was just. And so we actually went and set up stations where people could come and get water. We delivered to the elderly people. We started a heating and cooling and warming station here, along with our local sheriff department. So people that didn't have heat and everything, they could go to our community center at the time and warm up. And we had coffee and food for them. The National Guard brought in not only water but MREs. We passed them out, and our mayor sat here and did nothing. He did not do one thing. But I and my team, I had everybody working, and we came out here and got we worked together with our local paper mill, our sheriff department, and the National Guard. We got generators. We were able to hook generators up to our wells to get our water to flowing again. Got people to where they had water. So unbeknownst to me, and I didn't know that I was acting as the mayor. I was just doing it because it needed to be done, and nobody else was stepping up to do it. Marine Corps 101, right? Took the initiative and just went out and about and did it. And the sad part about it is we had a council meeting a couple of months later, and the so-called mayor at the time, he stood up and said we overstepped our bounds. He can lead from home. And I thought that was just the most sickening thing I ever heard. You said it best. We lead from the front. We lead by example. And that has always stuck with me. And it was nothing against him, but I just thought, and excuse my French, he was just a piss poor leader. He was selfish. It was all about him. And so when I became mayor, nothing really changed for me because as the chief of police, I was already doing his job for him. All he did was sit at City Hall and make decisions on financials or budget, which we were always in trouble for as a town. And so, but being out here with the people, doing what I needed to do, doing what needed to get done, I was already doing that as the chief of police. So the transition wasn't anything for me. But when I did become mayor, it took me a while to realize that these were different positions, and that I had to stop conducting myself as a cop and start conducting myself as a mayor. That took a little while, but I always be a cop at heart. I'm not gonna lie
Yeah.
to you.
What would you say to those? Because there was a veteran, and it was like he's a Navy guy, and I remember him saying it was right in the middle of the pandemic, where there was just a lot of the crisis was happening, and you see the best and the worst come out in people during a crisis. And he says we need to stop playing politics and get back to principles. And that has stuck with me, right? Because we're big on leadership principles, and a lot of times people are playing politics. And what you just demonstrated is something that's leadership principles 101 is leading from the front, right? You went out there, you saw a problem,
Mm-hmm.
and you went to go solve it. And I always say,
And
this
I
is how you
always
know the difference between a leader and a manager. Leaders solve problems, the manager just solves for the symptom. They don't go after the root cause. So that's a problem
mm,
manager, not a problem leader. So have
I
you been
like
able
that.
to balance it out, like because I understand you might need some things to be more on the maintenance side or sustainment side just to manage it for a little bit before you go solving it, like how, like, because I mean I feel like when principle, like when I feel like there's a character building there, because now it's, there's some things you hear that are not even true, but if you have those, your character, your humility, your ability to do the right, your integrity, I think that's the word I'm looking for here, Mayor, is how much of those things were
Mm-hmm.
challenged in these things, right? Because what you just described, that seems to me like a typical day at the office if you're working at the office when
It,
people are playing office
it really is.
politics.
Yeah, your character as a politician gets charged every day. I mean, I've been called everything under the sun. I'm always going to jail. I've even been called a drug dealer. Here in my own town. They tried to assassinate your character. I had to be taught how not every battle is worth fighting. So even though it may be hurtful, because you know in your heart that you're doing the right thing, um, in this day and age, people, right has become wrong and wrong has become right in their minds. I'm the implementer of change here in my town. The mindset, the culture had become so bad that people got used to living in these conditions, and I was just like, oh man, this isn't my town. This is horrible. You know, I can't even believe that they let my town fall like this. And there's many factors that go along with it, but it's at like what time do we stop talking about it and do something about it? We can talk all day, but those same people who are out there doing the talking, you realize at some point in time that they're not walking, they're not doing anything. They're armchair quarterbacks. They always have been and probably always will be. You will never get them on your team. But I have, out of that, there's a little small faction of 30, but I got another 4,000 and something odd people that's on my side, that loves the change, that love. And like yesterday, I've always done this, even as the chief of police. We had a bad water leak. I went out and put it on our Facebook page live. These guys out here, it's 20 degrees. They're in this hole. Have you seen them? Give them a pat on the back. They're doing a great job. And they have been, and they love it. My guys love it. The people in the town thank you for keeping us informed. I have we are so transparent. It's ridiculous. Did we make a mistake? Yes, but I own up to it, because at the end of the day, the buck stops here. They made a mistake. Okay, we're gonna fix it. Let's move on. I don't sit there and harp on that. But you have some people that want to, and it's all about the dirty game of politics. And I'm at the lowest level of government. This is the municipal level. You got the municipal, you got the state, and you got the federal. Um, I've had people at the state level say, "Mayor, no way, I would want your job. I would want to be in your shoes. Right now, you have to bring this town back from the brink of death, and you know what? We've done it. And we're moving on, and we're getting healthier and healthier by the day. So I let my work speak for itself. But everything, those naysayers and those who try to sabotage everything that they've done have failed. But I have to have, and I don't care how old you are, I don't care how smart you are, what kind of degrees you have to have mentors. I have two mentors right now that keep me grounded, and they will not allow me to. My first instinct is to fight. And I don't care if it's with my mouth, with my fist, with a pen. That's my first instinct. But they have kept me grounded over these years, last 2 years as the mayor, and I have learned so much. And they're older than I am, and things have just worked out just fine. So I don't go out and publicly fight anymore. When the negativity comes, you know what? I go and make sure I do something positive, and I do something for somebody else, and I let people know about it. And hey, if I have a grant that's coming up, I advertise it. And we just keep people. That's it, man. I mean, you have to have mentors or somebody around you in your circle that you trust, that you can depend on, that's going to tell you the right thing, but that also that's going to give you some constructive criticism, and you be able to take it. I can always take constructive criticism. It's the destructive criticism I don't handle well. So
Yeah, I mean, you said a lot right there, but I think what I'm hearing is you rebuilt a foundation of a small town, applying your military experience, applying your law enforcement background, and then your ability to be a part of a political staff, if you will, as being the chief of police. But now you saw something and you saw a problem and you went there and fixed it here. So, what is your vision? I don't know how long your term is, but what is your vision for the next couple of years? Like, what do you want to see? Because one thing that veterans and I always talk about, and you know this, is we always say like, man, that's a bad leader right there. That is bad leadership. Like that Marine needed your help,
mm,
right? Like you didn't go and help that Marine out. And I think we're in a leadership crisis right now in America, where, as you know, there's a lot of politics that people are playing instead of going back to principle based leadership. Let's do what's right for the country. Like you just talked about right now, building a leadership development program for the future generations, or your staff or your team, building them up as leaders, because you can only do so much as the CEO or the CEO or the mayor, governor, uh, president. You have to be able to delegate. The art of delegation, and to do that is to build up those leaders. So tell me about maybe some of
mhm.
your goals, or for the next couple of years. What does success look like for you at the end of the day when Mayor Harris hangs up the suit and is winning hearts and minds and kissing babies? What does that look like for you at the end of the day?
Well, let me back up a little bit. So as a chief of police, as a former chief of police, um, I started my doctoral journey for my doctoral degree. As you said, I had already recognized the problems. I'd already figured out, what this town needs, and that's what my dissertation is on. Because I found out in my dissertation it was basically um, towns with elected chiefs and elected mayors. Um, I did research on if they didn't it affects your town, how it affects your town if they don't work together. And if those two elected officials do not work together in your town, I knew all the bad things, but I wanted to know what mayors and what chiefs had good relationships. And in Louisiana, I think we had 463 chiefs of police throughout the state. Out of that, I think 197 or something like that are elected. I had to talk to 63 chiefs with towns the size of Jonesboro or smaller. I had to talk to 63 to find 12 that had good relationships with their mayor. So it's a prominent problem. Now, what were you all doing? And so as I did my research and I talked to them, and this is the dissertation that I went with. And so now you fast forward to me being the mayor. First thing, to make sure my town runs correctly, who's the chief of police, which is a former officer of mine. I want to make sure that relationship stays great. We might have our disagreements, but we have to have a good understanding of moving this town forward. I had to make sure that we're buying into the same vision, because I want to make sure that we provide services to our public. So water, sewer, roads, protection, fire. I want to make sure all of that is paramount. That has to be first. Now I have to bring in new businesses. You know, don't get me wrong. Mom and pop shops are the cornerstone of America, but I need an industry here. We lost a proposed contract with Amazon because the former mayor couldn't elaborate on the property that the town owned and basically sell the town. So I want to bring in industry here. I want to bring in more jobs. I'm even looking at right now out by our airport. We have a small airport, extending that airport another 800 feet. Barksdale Air Force Base is only an hour away from us. So get them to do their training here. We have two pilot schools, Louisiana Tech and LSU at Alexandria. So get them to use it and buy into it. I'm even looking at putting a solar farm out there by our airport, which will bring in jobs. But bring that industry in here. So what I would like to see is a sustainable program that grows along and keeps this town financially afloat, keep our citizens well informed, and to make sure all of our services are provided in the best manner possible. Clean water is definitely one of the biggest right now. So I'm doing a lot of consolidation with the town with lift stations and sewer ponds. I'm actually looking at building a sewer plant, which we need. We were so far behind times, but when I got here, and I know this is probably going to make you laugh, our water billing system was a old DOS system, and a gentleman did it out of his house in another town, in another city. And I'm like, are you serious? So I had to look internally first. And then as we look internal, we're going to branch out. And because I had to change all of these systems, and I thought that was great, upgrading our systems to more updated systems using the cloud, using things like that. But it's hard to find people here that can pick up on it in a fast manner. So that 30, 60-day learning curve here with some people, it becomes a 120-day learning curve. Okay, so so you have to
Yeah,
kind of know where you are. Yeah.
yeah.
So
I like what you said there though, because your infrastructure is a problem that we have in America, and you just gave a great example of that, right? Crumbling roads, and people need roads, people need paved roads, and obviously here in California, we see it, right? Roads that need to be fixed, and clean water is becoming more and more, I think, a prominent issue across the country, as we saw here in the fires happening in SoCal, right? The whole water issue that we had here, and I know people at Department of Water and Power that gave me a little bit of insight into it, and then finding technical talent or talent that is up to speed on upgrading government systems and municipalities or local politics to get the people plugged into the 21st century, right? So modernization is going to be a prominent thing, and I understand what you're talking about is, and this is, I think, one thing that was a little hard for me is because I'm very big, like you said, on small businesses. I think small businesses are the backbone of America, and you said it, perfectly. Like, they're the cornerstone of America. But we want to create job creation right now, because right now we're in a climate of jobs being killed in government, right? Jobs
Yeah.
right now, people are getting layoffs. There's a lot of risk happening in country, in the whole entire country, because I know people at the government, at the federal level, that they're going through it, but also the state and local folks as well, because some of them, to your point earlier, they have ties to federal funding, and so there's an alignment there that has to be closed with, because if you got federal dollars that are tied to your local municipality, if you say the wrong thing or you disagree with that federal funding can get cut off here. And so I think you're dealing with a lot of
Mhm.
pressing challenges in the town of Jonesboro. And for those of you listening here, if you want to learn more about Jonesboro, because I think what the mayor's also alluding to is there may be opportunities where you guys can go in and learn and see if you guys want to modernize. I always tell folks that are a little more up to date on as far as systems is, it's great having that corporate America experience, But I think with the people like what you just demonstrating here is the people that really needed your experience are in your backyard, right? Your local municipalities. Those are the ones that
Mhm.
really need your help. So if you're a leader there, you've been in corporate America for a while, you've been at a big Fortune 500, you want to go help your community. Maybe, uh, think about going back to your local city and see what help they need, right? Like the mayor's just doing here, leading by example, because those are the ones that really need the help. A lot of times we just see everything at the federal level because it's big business, it's big media, big tech. But someone like the mayor, what he
Mhm.
just demonstrated here, an old DOS system, right, that he had to go and modernize. And so I think it's important for you guys to partner with Mayor Harris and make some improvements there, not just at the IT level, but if you're maybe a mid-size business and you are a manufacturer, because I got actually another devil dog that I know, he's the founder of Heroes Vodka, right, Marine Corps veteran, and
Mm.
he's a big believer in made in America and manufacturing. So I'm a big believer in that as well. I think this is a prime time opportunity if there's real estate available there, or there's, because guess what? You're creating jobs now for Americans, which aligns with the current agenda of where at the federal level here. So there may be some incentives or something that you can partner with the mayor and have a discussion about. I think that'd be a great opportunity. Or you're maybe a small IT firm or mid-sized IT firm and you want to bring some jobs there. Think about a town like Jonesboro. Partner with the mayor here. We can already tell he's a go getter. He's a doer. He leads by example, and I think there may be a great opportunity there. So Mayor, I am just wow. I can go on and on about some of these initiatives that you're talking about here. What would you say to people that want to get into politics, especially our veterans? I think we need more veterans like yourself to
Mhm.
get into this politics because, I was talking to someone yesterday, and I said, man, it's like they say keep politics out of the office, keep politics out of the dinner table, but it's like more and more it's just in our face here because we're getting impacted now, our livelihoods.
Yeah.
And so what would you say to those
Yeah.
people that want to get into potentially in the politics arena?
Well, everybody has their own ideals. I am not one to blindly follow any organization. So, in other words, I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. I'm an independent. Uh, Republicans do some things that I like. Democrats do some things that I like, and both do some things that I don't like. Um, I would say, if you're going to be a Democrat, if you're going to be a Republican, um, or if you're going to be independent, make sure that you know the issues at hand, and don't just complain about the issues. Have a plan. Have a plan to fix them, even if it's the wrong plan. You may think it's right, but every plan can always use a little bit of sprucing up. You know, keep your mind open to other ideas. Listen to other people, and you'll be able to establish your own identity and own agenda in politics, if that makes sense. So when if you want to get into politics, the first thing you have to realize is that you are a servant. You are serving, okay? And most people, when you get into a position, say mayor, and I always use the pyramid. The mayor is at the top of the pyramid, and everybody else is beneath them. No, you have to invert that pyramid. At that point in time, the higher you go up, the more you work for others. And any commanding officer will tell you that they are supposed to work for you. Okay, they're going to do things to make your life better. And if you don't have that mentality as being a servant, then uh, you see a lot of people in politics right now that you believe they're not servants, and they may believe they're not servants. I'm not here to point fingers at anyone, um, but you can tell when somebody's in it for themselves. If you're in this to get rich, or if you're in this to get acclaim, and this, you're in the wrong business. If you got to have some thick skin, because whatever you do, there's going to be an armchair quarterback that's not doing anything, that's going to complain about you, that's going to talk about you, that's going to nitpick any and everything that you say or do. You have to have some thick skin and not be able to retaliate.
Right now, our political environment is nothing more than a reality show, is what I call it. You know, where are the positive things that are going on? You know, what are we doing positive? How are we going to spin this off? Everybody has their own spin on something. You know, you have to be middle of the road in my mind. You can't be too far left or too far right, as they call it. Um, and don't let anyone box you into to falling prey to one ideology. If you truly want to help people and you want to help your town, your city, your country, and you want to run for office, then let the people know that. But you have to have a plan. And once again, Marine Corps 101, we don't plan to fail. We just fail to plan. You have to go into this thing with a plan, right?
Powerful. That is powerful here, and I hope you guys
Yeah.
are taking notes here for as leaders. And I want to be respectful of the mayor's time here. Mayor, any initiatives, campaigns you have coming up? Is there a way that we can help you?
Well, I don't campaign. I don't campaign again towards 2026. I think I'll start campaigning again. Um, Man, just what you're doing. I think you're doing a great job. You're connecting folks. You got your platform down. I'm loving it. You're reaching out to not just other Marines, but other veterans. And man, I just think what you're doing is wonderful. And I want to keep in contact. So yeah, when I get ready to campaign, I'll definitely let you know. But I'm literally uh, every day. I call it campaigning without campaigning. I'll go to Walmart, or I'll go to somewhere where a lot of people are. Just kind of go out and talk to people, and just hey, be amongst the people and talking, and listening to their concerns or complaints, things like that. And it's like, okay, okay. Um, but I was told by one of my mentors, um, always be a man or a woman of your word. If you say you're going to do something, then you do it. And I know sometimes we forget and things like that. So the way I overcame that, I tell people, if somebody says, Mayor, I need this and this and this done, I need you to do this Monday or whatever, and I was like, okay, well, call me Monday and remind me, because I'm going to forget. I don't have a pen and paper with me every day. I don't check my notes in my phone or memories in my phone. Call me Monday. So you have to kind of put it back on them. And the majority of them will call. And if they don't, it's like, look, I asked you to call me Monday for a reason. Because when I hang up the phone with you, I'm going to get another phone call, and I'm going to go off on another tangent or something going on and things like that. Be a servant, serve the people, serve those that you're there for. Uh, and I believe, that at the end of the day, by you being a servant, uh, God is going to take care of you. God is going to take care of you 100%. And we have to realize that. So, regardless of the negativity and things like that, uh, push on and see it through. Never stop. Never give up.
Powerful words, and of course, we'll be happily have you back on when it gets time for when you get time for that next campaign, Mayor. And of course, if you're a fellow Devil Dog, fellow Marine as well, you can come on anytime here on this platform. And I appreciate the comments and the kudos here. Like I said, next month is March Madness. I am a Duke Blue Devils fan, so I hope you don't hold it against me here. And I'd love to find a way to
Not at all.
have you back on here. I know you guys are, Louisiana. You're very passionate, man. You guys, about the whole
Yeah.
SEC, man. You guys do really well. You guys really groom your athletes and develop them
Yep.
really well there. So, but I want to thank you again
Thank you.
just for this opportunity. I'm very humbled. And what I'm doing here, man, is we're doing this together. It's not I, right? As we learned, and as you know, it's we here. It's how can we
We.
create more opportunities for each other, not just economically, but leadership here. And this is leadership 101 here. Someone who has served his country, someone who is way overqualified with all the credentials. He's had many careers. What I would just hope just to have one of those careers in myself. But I'm very appreciative of all the things you're doing, Mayor Harris, and I appreciate
Yeah.
you taking the time to speak with us here today. So Semper Fi.
Hoorah, hoorah. And one more thing before you go. Um, Always be a lifelong learner. And I am constantly looking for different things. Even though the Marine Corps taught me a lot of leadership, I think I've forgotten more than I ever knew. But I joined an organization called K4 Men, and teaching you about leadership, teaching you about yourself, talking about the archetypes, things like that. So I even did a mentorship with them, and they actually paid me to be a leader in one of their forums a few times. So you can find them online really easy. Some great guys, and also, believe it or not, at 55 years old, I joined the fraternity. So Omega Psi-Phi Incorporated. And so I am telling you, once again, I'm around a bunch of people, doctors, lawyers, principals, teachers, managers, supervisors. I'm in that group. Keep yourself surrounded by people of like mind, and trust me, you won't lose that energy. So, and that's it. I don't want to sound like a preacher up here now.
Mayor, God bless you. God bless your family. God bless the town of Jonesboro. And again, thank you for coming on today on TVC. Semper Fi.
All right. Thank you, Simplify, and God bless you. Hoorah.
Rah.